Dishonest, violent, horrible. A promiscuous swinger who lied to and cheated on multiple partners. Incredibly, that's how Sean Diddy Combs' own lawyers describe the billionaire music mogul, currently facing serious trafficking charges in a New York court.
Dishonest, violent, depraved, a reckless swinger who lied, cheated, and destroyed lives. Shockingly, that's not the press. It's how Sean Diddy Combs' own lawyers describe the billionaire mogul now battling trafficking charges in a New York courtroom. And Ray J, he's not whispering in the shadows anymore. He's shouting it to the world. But this time it's not about the old tape drama. He says the so-called gatekeepers of the Kardashian dynasty, handpicked by Kris Jenner and once in Diddy's pocket, have now seized control of the very machine that kept him untouchable. According to Ray J, that machine thrived on blackmail, secret deals, and parties fueled by fear. And now it's under new management. Forget the myth that Kim Kardashian's rise was just reality TV brilliance. Ray J insists it was never about luck or viral fame. It was a rigged system. And the torch has simply been passed. And here's the kicker. Ray J claims he has receipts. Evidence strong enough, he hints, to send the FBI racing straight into Calabasas, right after they finish seizing the keys to Diddy's last mansion. Period.
We're all going to take a disgusting trip to his seedy, awful world. You know, the man has no class. He has no kindness in his dark, dark heart. And he's depraved. That's my opinion. This is a depraved, disgusting individual about whom I wish to hear nothing.
Some may dismiss it all as bluster, but it's hard to ignore when the headlines are still unfolding in real time. Diddy's scandals aren't relics of the past. They're burning right now. Homeland Security raiding mansions in Miami and Los Angeles. Helicopters buzzing overhead while agents haul out file boxes and hard drives as stunned neighbors peek through the hedges. And in court, it's not just Cassie Ventura's tear-soaked testimony echoing through the room. For 4 straight days, she recounted the freak-offs that stretched for days, leaving her broken in body and spirit. She swore under oath she would hand back the entire $20 million settlement Diddy once paid, just to erase the humiliation etched into her memory. Then came Deontay Nash, the celebrity stylist who spent 10 years inside Diddy's orbit. On the stand, he described being strangled by Diddy while trying to shield Cassie. He painted a picture of threats, manipulation, and silence enforced by fear. Employees, he said, all knew what the boss kept in his desk drawer. And Diddy himself? He bragged that retaliation was just a phone call away. This isn't tabloid chatter. These are sworn testimonies, federal raids, and charges backed by evidence. Real witnesses, real trauma, and the walls are closing in.
And suddenly he was a part of people like Diddy going after him and saying, hey man, why don't you pick up my phone calls? There's actually a video of that. Diddy and Justin Bieber looks to be like 15 years old and said, why aren't you picking up my phone calls? And he's like, oh, I know you were trying to contact me through people and I don't have your number. And the next thing we know, Justin is at Diddy's parties.
This is where Ray J's accusations stop sounding like bitter ex talk and start clicking into place as part of a much darker puzzle. According to him, the Kardashians didn't just distance themselves from Diddy's empire. They stepped into it, inheriting all of its shadows and mechanics. Suddenly, timelines overlap, and a decade-old moment feels less like gossip and more like evidence. Flashback to 2010. Kim Kardashian was 29, wading into the turquoise waters of the Bahamas alongside a 16-year-old Justin Bieber for that infamous Elle magazine shoot. If you revisit those photos now, they hit differently. Kim, drenched in sheer lingerie, sunlit and posed like a Maxim cover girl, while Bieber, still round-cheeked, bangs in his eyes, caught in the throes of Bieber fever, pretends to photograph her with a grin that screams awkward teenage kid. They splash, they laugh, she struts. He plays the role of eager apprentice with a camera. At the time, most people shrugged it off. But today, those clips are resurfacing across TikTok and Reddit, with fans recoiling. He looks 14. Who signed off on this? One post reads. Another is blunter. This is disturbing. It's not even subtle. It's as if society suddenly woke up and realized the elephant in the room wasn't hiding at all. It was holding the selfie stick the entire time.
Videos that are surfacing of Justin Bieber at a Diddy party, and they are horrific. I'm talking truly and utterly.
The Kardashians had every camera in the world pointed at them, yet somehow managed to slip by with images like these unchecked. Looking back now, the footage doesn't just feel awkward, it feels predatory. What was once packaged as playful, harmless fun comes across as a carefully engineered spectacle that would get any other celebrity blacklisted from a network deal today. And this wasn't an isolated incident. The same blueprint shows up again, almost on cue, in Diddy's infamous clip with a teenage Bieber. There's Diddy, grinning like the undisputed king of the afterparty, standing beside Justin and boasting to the camera that Usher had handed over custody of Bieber for 48 hours. He teases, "We're going to go full crazy." For years, people brushed it off as typical showbiz bluster. But revisiting it now, the video feels less like harmless banter and more like a chilling time capsule. A snapshot from an era when powerful families and their handlers could parade teenagers across international waters and sell it as mentorship.
Find out what's really been going on in the background.
Diddy isn't just in hot water anymore. He's in federal custody, staring down charges of trafficking and conspiracy. That old full crazy line? It's aged about as well as milk left on the LA tarmac. These connections don't need much help to feel sinister. For years, Diddy and the Kardashians built parallel empires, feeding on scandal, bending narratives, orbiting the brightest and most vulnerable young stars, and counting on the public's short memory. But with Ray J framing the Kardashian rise as a hostile takeover, the question practically asks itself, were these worlds really separate, or were they overlapping all along? If the machinery for parties, payoffs, and narrative control was already built, maybe all it needed was a new driver behind the wheel. Ray J certainly isn't pulling punches. He's accused Kris Jenner of being the mastermind who didn't just approve Kim's sex tape, but personally selected which of 3 tapes would be released, like choosing a lead single for an album drop. According to him, she watched them all, then picked the one that would launch a dynasty. And Ray J isn't stopping there. In more recent interviews, he pushes the idea even further. Without that decision, without the family's calculated embrace of scandal as strategy, there might not even be an OnlyFans era. Maybe more people would have gone to college, he jokes, half bitter, half laughing, as if the punchline only lands for those already cashing their checks.
Thanks to that behind the scenes, is that him? Or is that
Shout out to Wendy Williams.
What we're witnessing now is the boil-over of a system that's been hiding in plain sight for years. Grooming culture disguised as mentorship, inappropriate dynamics masked by camera flashes, clever editing, and a seamless passing of the torch from one empire to the next. The FBI is now circling both worlds, and Ray J is practically begging them to connect the dots he's laid out. This isn't just about the sex tape that launched a reality dynasty. It's about whether the very culture that engineered that scandal is finally about to collapse under the weight of raids, receipts, and testimonies stacking up faster than Diddy can speed dial his attorney. At the center of the board sits Kris Jenner, the so-called strategist who allegedly picked which tape to drop like a chart-topping single. And with federal eyes turning toward Calabasas, the question looms larger than ever. Was this truly the beginning of a culture built on grooming? And if so, is that very same machine about to collapse under the weight of raids, receipts, and testimonies stacking up faster than Diddy can speed dial his attorney? At the center of the board sits Kris Jenner, the so-called strategist who allegedly picked which tape to drop like a chart-topping single. And with federal eyes turning toward Calabasas, the question looms larger than ever. Was this truly the beginning of a culture built on grooming? And if so, is that very same machine about to be dragged into the storm now tearing through Diddy's empire?
A new lawsuit just weeks before he's scheduled to be sentenced on related charges. Former stylist Deontay Nash accuses the disgraced music mogul of...
We've watched this story shift from glossy photo ops to the cold machinery of lawsuits, settlements, and the brutal reality of what money can buy in Hollywood. Suddenly, every tabloid headline about a wild party or a scandalous photo shoot reads like camouflage for what's really playing out inside courtrooms today. Cassie Ventura is no longer just Diddy's ex or a star witness. She's living proof that private jets, million-dollar payouts, and platinum records can't bury what happens behind the doors of these so-called empires. On the stand, her voice was so raw, it seemed to reverberate through the marble corridors. She rejected every claim that her lawsuit was about money, swearing she'd hand back the full $20 million settlement if it meant she could erase the memories of those infamous freak-offs. Her testimony painted a harrowing picture. Days-long sessions that left her humiliated, scarred, and stripped of her humanity. Against that kind of suffering, the numbers and headlines feel paper-thin, almost trivial.
Allegations of battery, assault, violence, physical and psychological abuse, labor trafficking, he says. And a lot of what Deontay Nash says in this complaint mirrors testimony that we heard during that trial, both from Nash and from others, like Sean Combs' ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, who was a...
He gets 14 months. If the defense gets what they want, he'd essentially get out October 3rd because
he's been in
for a year,
months.
And you get 15% credit for time served. So he'd basically be out after the sentence, and then he'd be on super.
But the headlines aren't done. The dominoes keep falling. Brianna Bangalin, a longtime friend of Cassie, took the stand and testified that Diddy once dangled her from the railing of a 17th floor balcony, screaming accusations she couldn't even make sense of. She was left with bruises, trauma, and a neck brace, photographed for the jury like evidence in a crime scene. Another name added to a growing ledger of abuse. Then comes Deontay Nash, once just a stylist, now a survivor with a decade-long story of torment. In his lawsuit, Nash describes being groped, choked, hunted down at highway speeds, threatened and silenced, with Diddy looming like a shadow behind every door. His account doesn't hold back. Weapons always close at hand, rules enforced by intimidation, and a culture of fear so deep it erased the idea of saying no. And yet, the defense keeps playing the same tired card, trying to recast Cassie and Nash as willing participants, as if a flirty text or a moment of consent could somehow excuse years of coercion and violence. It's a grotesque tug-of-war over narrative control, one side hiding behind NDAs, the other dragging the ugliest receipts into daylight. This is where Ray J's warnings suddenly gain teeth. It's not just about tapes or viral scandals anymore. It's about two machines colliding, both built for one thing: control. Inside the courtroom, the spectacle only grows. Diddy's legal team pleads for mercy, painting him as a fallen mogul in inhumane conditions, maggots in his food, guards jolting him awake every 2 hours, his fortune gone, his career in ashes, his children facing doors slammed shut. They argue he's already been punished enough. But prosecutors aren't buying it. They want years behind bars, not as a witch hunt, but as a message, a reckoning for a man who crossed lines for decades and dared the world to stop him.
And what I sensed from those public emotional breakdowns, and only public obviously because the press was following him, was that he was coming to terms with the fact that he had been engaged in darkness unwillingly. And Justin Bieber probably has a lot of shame about that. He probably feels shame, first and foremost, as a man,